You can be a cat and I can be a crow. And we can hang out in a graveyard and scare people.
You should be witches. Yeah. That sounds good. We'll do that in our next reincarnation.
Okay, I'll see you there.
Okay.
Welcome to Soror Mystica, a podcast exploring life's mysteries and magic through its symbols.
I'm Mariana Lewis, an archetypal tarotist.
And I'm astrologer Christina Farella.
And just as the Soror Mystica guided the alchemist through his holy work, we hope to be your mystic sisters in these conversations, guiding you deeper into the symbolic life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Soror Mystica. This is the 38th episode, and it is our first episode filming together in person, live. We're in Mariana's home because I happen to be visiting New York, and we're here together and decided to try to film something, and this is our dream. So our dreams are coming true, and that's wonderful.
Yep.
This episode is going to be a little bit different than our other ones, a little bit more free form, and we're going to be answering listener questions about esoteric topics, being an astrologer, being a tarot reader, and it's going to be, kind of loosely formed around that.
And the cats are going to be walking around.
Yeah, we have two kitties here.
Yeah.
Okay, so hi. I'm not letting you talk at all. What's up? How are you?
Doing good. We're going to have like a nice little chat, and that's the vibe today, is relax. It's summer, and chit chat and answer some of your questions, actually. So that's the goal. And well, I don't know. Are you reading anything? Did you bring anything to the beach?
I have so many things that I'm reading. So right now I'm actually, I went book shopping. I was just at the beach with my family for a little while, and I picked up a book called In Montmartre, which is like a book about the beginning of the modernist painting movement. So it's about Picasso and Matisse and just like all of the kind of early versions of their careers together, and it's really good. So if people
like that.
Yeah, if people like art history, they would they'll enjoy it.
That's good. You're going to be mad at me. I just finished ACOTAR. Do you know what ACOTAR is?
No. But I'm ready to be mad.
It's A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Yeah.
I read it. I just finished it. It was really bad.
That's so funny. It's beloved.
Yeah, and it's, it won a Children's Book Award.
Really? Isn't it like sexy?
Yeah, it's smut.
Okay, good.
This is a problem in fantasy, and I would argue mostly fantasy written by women, because fantasy written by women tends to have like a romance edge, and yet for some reason they won't categorize it as like adult fiction, and they always categorize it as young adult fiction.
Weird.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, it's sure, maybe there's teenagers reading it, and probably a lot of them are reading it, but like, I think it's a sexist thing. This is my theory.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
So it's very sexy, and there's lots of fairies and different sex positions with fairies. That's not the reason I read it. I read it because I like fantasy, and everybody has read it. So
whatever you say, Mariana.
I have to.
It's fine.
It's pretty bad. So, but I just finished that, and I'm good now. I've figured out what the thing is. I would love for them to not have female heroines, just female leads of these books that like don't have a thought in their brain or a personality to be found. It'd be really nice if they would have. And I would like for one of them once to like a dress. They're always like, ew, dresses?
Right.
Gross.
Have to reject.
Give me sneakers and jeans, please.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It's very stupid. So those are my main complaints about it.
I don't like that version of like a feminist reclaim where you have to reject the feminine. I find that very alarming and not fair.
I think we talk about that a lot on the podcast. Like how to own your femininity, or how to own any experience of yourself, but also try to find balance in it. So anyway, that's what I'm reading. And then I'm also reading like, I don't know, a million good things. I just finished a book about Jung and Frodo.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
It was good. That was actually pretty good. That was better.
I love it. Yeah, I think that this is such a good time of year for having multiple books on your list. also picked up a book called Lies and Sorcery, just by the name of the title. It's by Elsa Moranti, who is an Italian writer.
Okay.
And since I was with my Italian family members this week, I think that Italian things were finding me. So she's very well regarded as, whatever, an Italian writer. And it's a really big book, though. It looks like War and Peace length.
Cool.
It's in my suitcase, making it
You'll-
like 5
you'll
pounds
read it in
heavier.
bits and pieces, probably.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but it seems really interesting about some women's lives and stuff like that. So,
Well, we got some good reads, summer reading.
mm-hmm.
Last summer we were in the Hamptons reading together. I think I was reading Dante and you were reading Swan.
I was reading Swan's Way.
There, yes.
Yeah.
Because we're
because
snobby.
we're so pretentious. But we were enjoying ourselves.
We were. It was a good time. But we are having a book club very soon, a couple weeks, and we're reading The Flowering Wand by Sophie Strand. I am about 4 pages in. I just started it, but I'm very excited.
Me too. I just love this kind of book because they're essays on different topics,
Yeah.
but it's The Flowering Wand, Rewilding the Sacred Masculine. And so we do so much on this show and in our work, I think, to think about the sacred feminine, and this is an interesting approach to bringing in the sacred masculine.
Yeah,
so,
we never talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be cool. Yeah, so great inspo as well for those of us who want to write essays about esoteric topics.
Or fantasy books that are better.
Or fantasy books that are better. Mm-hmm.
I like your earrings, by the way.
I like your bookmark. It's very
Thanks.
pretty.
I got that at the Met.
It's
I
really-
think I was with you when I got that,
Oh,
actually.
I love to be at the Met with
Yeah.
you.
I think I did.
I think that you mean at the cloisters?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Because it's
Mhm.
part of the Met.
Yes, it
But
is.
yeah.
You're right.
Like, it's a Met bookmark, I think.
It's beautiful. I love that.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. These earrings are from Target.
They look much
Just so
fancier
you know.
than
I know.
Target.
That's my trick. Okay, so
We're going to answer some questions today. And we got some questions from you guys that are awesome and some that are very funny. We're going to choose the best of them because we got a few that came in. So I guess I'll just kind of jump in and, well, one of them that we can talk about is like how we met and how we started the podcast, which I think would be a great place to start. So where did we meet?
we met at the CUNY Graduate Center in Manhattan,
Yeah.
and we were both taking a class called Dreaming in the Middle Ages. And our professor tricked us because we both were attracted to this class, thinking that we would be reading really cool dream texts and
Yeah.
thinking about dream analysis from a Middle Ages perspective. And then the first day, the professor was like, we're not really doing that. We're just
Yeah.
going to read these texts that have dreams in them.
And he's also like, I don't really know what this class is about. It
I couldn't
sounded
tell
cool
if he
to
was
me.
faking
It sounded like a
us
joke.
out. Yeah. I was like, is he kidding? Or is this like real?
No, it's real.
Mhm.
So, but it was cool because we read a lot of things we wouldn't have read otherwise. And then we met each other. So it was very great. And so then we were friends in school for a little bit. Very brief time. I think only like a semester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 minute.
And then Christina moved to Oregon, and since then we have been somehow made the long distance friendship work pretty well, actually. And she was like, "I'm going to be an astrologer," and I was like, "Cool, I'm going to be a tarot reader." And
And we both made very specific, strange choices about what we were going to do with ourselves.
yeah, and then we constantly calling each other and being like, "This sucks," and they're like, "Yeah, you're right, it does, but it's cool too."
All right, so wait, back up. So I think that what's maybe useful to people here is that you and I were both in this grad program that was it was a master's in, liberal studies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this interdisciplinary kind of like DIY master's
Yeah.
degree, and we were using it to focus on the topic of Western intellectual traditions.
Yeah.
I wound up focusing on like Shakespeare and classics. You did
Like medievalism and occultism
and Goethe.
Mhm.
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 And so that was amazing, but we both kind of were at this turning point in our lives right before our Saturn returns really kicked in, where we knew that we were looking for something deeper to do with our energy and
Yeah.
with our minds and our hearts. And so you were at the very beginning moments of thinking about becoming a tarot reader, and I was having the same ideas about astrology. And so that was also kind of like the weird thing that clicked for us.
Yeah.
I think that in a presentation that I gave,
Yeah, you did a presentation on the Fool, and I decided I would hate you.
This is why I wanted you to tell the story. So everyone, my best friend decided that she was my enemy as soon as I revealed that I had a similar interest to her.
I don't like competition.
I'm not competitive.
No, me neither, which is why I thought I was going to hate you, because everyone is usually competitive. And I was like, she's going to be like doing the thing of like, oh, you like tarot? That's my thing.
Meanwhile, I'm like so hungry for like.
Yeah, you were like excited.
I was like,
oh,
wow.
Cool. Yeah, it was a different vibe than I was anticipating. I'd also just come out of like 6 years of musical theater people.
That's brutal. Yeah,
it was like that's always the thing. It's like somebody has your thing, they're danger. So it was actually quite wonderful that we shared the same interests, and so that was what connected us rather than make me hate you. I learned something.
I'm just not a monster. So.
No, you're just not a competitive monster, so that's great. So yeah, and then we launched our businesses at the same time, and so we've been like a very strong support for each other, and also, you know, commiserated when it's tough, because it's tough. And then I pushed her into doing a podcast.
Happily.
Yes, happily. It was good. So, and then here we are. This is what, a year and a half now that we've been doing this, which is cool. And we get so much feedback so often that people enjoy this show. And so I'm wildly grateful and astonished that people care about this, and happy you're listening to this weird, goofy episode that we have going on here. It's fun.
It's great. And so, yeah, I think that the other interesting thing in that is like, if you're beginning to try to want to be a reader, it's not just about, you know, knowing your stuff or having a website. You also, you know, need to invite in like some kind of community / comrade to do it with, because it's like, it's intense. It's a lot of pressure. Yeah. You're going outside of the norms of work and life to cobble together a business for yourself that there really isn't any model for. Yeah. I think oftentimes people will ask us, like, how do I do this work professionally? Yeah. And I can give advice forever, and I can listen to people's ideas and give feedback, but there's no, like, one-size-fits-all method for this to work. So that's the important thing, too. So you really need somebody who you can voice note consistently and just complain bitterly about things going wrong.
I don't think we would have gotten this far if we didn't have each other.
I agree.
We both like inspired each other when we saw each other doing things that worked, so that was good. And then we also were always like, yeah, it sucks, and we're in the same boat, and we're able to have faith that everything's going to change. It's been a long journey. A lot of people look at where we are now. I feel I just taught a professionals program in the spring, and a lot of people kind of are like, yeah, but like, how do I get there? Like, blood, sweat, and tears, and time. So anybody who's thinking about doing spiritual work, it can be a thing. You can make it a thing, but you just have to be extremely patient. Yeah. And it took us, 4 years or something like that to get to a point where we're like, oh, cool. Like we've made it to like a certain plateau where we feel comfortable.
And lots of part-time work supplementing on the side until it really worked. Yeah. And, you know, it's just, I think that everyone should remember that, you know, no matter how something looks, you know, from the outside, there's internally always like the question of, is this going to continue to work? So you have to be guided by something that you really are caring about. And that's okay. So
yeah. And then sometimes you hate it and you want to throw it out the window.
Yep.
Sometimes I look at my tarot decks and I'm like, I don't want to think about tarot for 2 years. Yeah, no. Talk to me about something else, anything else. And I love it, but it's also tiring to talk about the same thing always, which is true about any job. But it can be a tough thing. So I just had somebody recently who was like, you know, I just started as a tarot reader, and I kind of already like hate giving readings sometimes because it's so repetitive. And I was like, that's okay. You're going to get in phases like that. Doesn't mean that you're doomed to not be good at it or it's not going to work. So, okay, maybe we can go to a question. This question is, are your families accepting of your witchy ways?
You go first.
Okay. Yes and no. I have my immediate family, like my mom, my aunts, they never really seemed to care. They were kind of like, oh, word? Great. That's where you're going in your life? That sounds fun. So I never got any pushback from that. I also came from like my grandfather was an armchair theologian, like metaphysician wannabe guy. So like he was always very out there, and I think that my family is just a little bit more of an out there family, so they're not as weird about it, even though they're Catholic, and they're just kind of strange. So I think they were fine with it, absolutely. My like extended family, like my in-laws and everything, and some of the farther family, is a little bit tougher, and there's definitely a lot of that kind of thing of like, wait, what are you doing? What is this? What are you calling yourself? What?
An archetypal tarotist.
Yeah. So it can be hard, but it's been a journey of understanding and trying to clarify what it is that I actually do. Mm-hmm. It's funny, I think that there's this idea, especially like sometimes I use the term witch, sometimes I don't really identify that way. It depends on the day, but I feel like when people are questioning like, a witch, you're a witch, or you're kind of witchy, I'm like, yeah, and I'm probably care more about the Gospels than you do, yes. Honestly, because we feel like it excludes religion, and I like to bring in as much of my roots as possible into my witchcraft. So what about you? What does your family do?
Yeah, it's similar. I think that, I come from, again, like a Catholic family, and there isn't, I think that the issue is probably more of like, are you going to survive doing this, Christina? Than it being like overtly problematic. But I do think that I'm the first / only one of people in my family who cares deeply about these things. And so it's always hard to kind of like break new ground in that way. And I understand that there were questions about what I was doing when I was doing it, especially since I had just moved across the country with my partner, and like I was in all this kind of uncharted territory, and it was a time of upheaval on many fronts. Mm-hmm. So I think that accepting it, it's there. My dad is like a businessman, and so he's very into like the business aspect of what I'm doing at this point. And I think that my mom is also genuinely curious and attuned. She's a social worker, and so she's very thoughtful and interested in understanding people. But it is just a funny thing to be like, this is what I'm doing for real, and try to explain that to other people who don't want to be invested in like knowing you, and they're just kind of like, oh, that's really bizarre. And that's harder to kind of deal with. However, families can be so influential in terms of how successful or how quickly you can feel successful. And so a lot of people that I read for, and that you read for, I'm sure, find themselves in the position of really wanting to kind of come out of, I hate this term, maybe I should cut this out, but like out of the broom closet. Yeah. It's not, that's ridiculous.
But it's a thing.
I know. But I'm remembering now that I think that it's silly. Anyway, so it's a thing. But family can be very, very prohibitive, especially prohibitive, if people think that tarot cards are evil, or that astrology is evil, and that, it says it in the Bible that we're not supposed to anticipate, God, or like know more than God. And so I'm very empathetic to that being people's experiences. And so, it can be really, really hard to break free from that if that's your culture of origin, I think. So it's very hard. And,
You have a slightly different situation in terms of with your partner. He's also an excellent astrologer and like really, really well versed, whereas I am married to a muggle who does not care at all about any of this. He's very, at first when I first started moving to this territory, he was kind of like, what's happening? What is this? And he's great, and he's very understanding. He doesn't feel weird about it. At least I don't think he does. But there was a bit of time in the beginning where it's like, what, huh? So it does take time, and I think that the more that you share why it matters to you and what about it matters to you, the more that it'll possibly bridge that divide. When I did kind of talk to some people who were a little bit more confused about why I do it, I was like, well, I'm always thinking about the divine, and I want to know it in different ways, and I want to know it in a more manifest way. And so they can understand that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what we can do to kind of soften that weird blow that happens. Okay, let's see. We also have, which animal do you most relate to and why?
All of them.
All of them. You like birds.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe owls.
You're a bird lady. Have you ever seen an owl?
Yeah.
In real life? I don't think. Well, that's not true. In 4th grade, we went to the zoo and we just dissect owl pellets and we got to meet the owl.
Such a gross project. Yeah, I like all kinds of birds, but I also like sea creatures.
Yeah. You're very Neptunian.
Yeah, I was obsessed with dolphins when I was a kid. That was like my spirit animal.
Lisa Frank.
I
love dolphins.
Didn't really like Lisa Frank.
Yeah, I didn't really either.
It's so pink.
Oh, well, I didn't mind the pink. I just didn't like the shade of pink.
Yeah.
I don't like hot pink. I aggressively don't like hot pink.
Yeah.
And it's very confusing because pink is always my favorite color. But
You
I'm
need
very
like an earthy pink.
Has to be a soft, mauvey, delicate pink. My husband recently he needed to get these t-shirts for work, and he got these MTV t-shirts, I don't know what, and they're hot pink, and he bought the wrong size, and he was like, "You should take this." And I was like, "You will never catch me dead in this t-shirt. I will never put this on." But yeah, no, I didn't like the purple either. And I couldn't get into it, but she had dolphins all the time on her stuff.
She did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that my first AOL screen name was Blue Dolphin Girl.
Oh, wow.
232. That's what I was.
Cute. I have no idea what mine was. It's probably Silver Girl, because it's the last stanza of Bridge Over Troubled Water by Paul Simon says, "Sail on, Silver Girl."
We've always been the same people.
Yeah. Okay, animal. I would be a cat. That's it. The end. I'd be a cat.
You can be a cat and I can be a crow. And we can hang out in a graveyard and scare people.
You should be witches. Yeah. That sounds good. We'll do that in our next reincarnation.
Okay, I'll see you there.
Okay. Let's do this. Oh, how do you prepare for each episode? How do you choose the topics?
Yeah, I like this question because I think this is a cool thing to model or think through. So the show is based on dissecting usually a symbol.
Yeah.
And sometimes we veer off into other territory, talk about a concept or, a set of concepts.
Like our last one on dream interpretation.
Yeah. And the episode we did on sacred space, so a little bit bigger. But I think that one of the things that you and I really love, and obviously this was the idea for the show, was to be able to kind of take a symbol and open up all of its richness and kind of hold it in its complexity. And I think that your work and my work is so symbolically oriented, meaning if I read a chart, I'm not just interested in Venus as the placement that tells you about your love life. I'm interested in the kind of concept of Venus or the aura or the divineness around Venus. And then where that shows up in art and in literature and in thought and where the origins of these ideas are. And so the way that we pick these, symbols for each episode is really just a matter of what's speaking to us these days. What are we teaching about? What are we writing about? What do we want to talk about? So that's easy. And then zeroing in on what about those things is most compelling. Yeah. So, what do you think?
Okay, I think that, yes, I love how you put all of that so much. We choose it, as you said before, by chaos a lot of times. Where it's kind of we'll have this conversation a week before, sometimes later. We'll be what are you thinking about right now? Where are you focused? What are you reading? What are you kind of lost in? And so sometimes we'll have a little bit of a plan in advance where we really want to do an episode on the star or something like that. And so we'll know, or especially if it's seasonal, we'll kind of plan that a little bit in advance. But we've really allowed these episodes to just be, where am I taken at this current moment? And if we can follow where our inner energy, our intellectual energy is most invested, then we usually get the best episodes. So we kind of will like switch off, like, what are you reading right now? What's cool for you? And then, and then sometimes neither one of us has anything particularly interesting. And then we have a master list of cool things.
Yes, we have a master list on our phones about what kinds of symbols we can talk about if we are not feeling particularly drawn to anything. I have a cold, everyone, and my voice is failing.
Poor Christina.
It's okay. And so I think that chaos is a good starting place. And then what speaks to you, like if you're listening to this and, you're curious about learning more about symbols and how to really read them and trace them, it really is just a matter of kind of like synchronicity.
Yeah.
Staying attuned to where you see glimmers of that symbol. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I like to think about, I read this recently, and Jung said that, so there's this concept in depth psychology called the libido. And the libido is basically, yes, there's a Freudian libido, which we all know, which is like sexual libido. But Jung said that libido is not just sexual, it's like life force energy, where it's just like our inner psychological energy trying to pull us. And so he wrote that we have this tendency to like willpower our way through things, but we don't ever really feel like we get very far if we don't have a natural gradient in the psyche towards what that libido is pulling us toward. So when we're thinking about, what's interesting to us, the reason we kind of like do it on the fly a little bit to say like, where are we right now? What do we think is cool? What are we thinking about? I like to think of it as like, how is that libido energy already oriented towards this point? How is there already a gradient toward it? And then we're going to like ride the wave and find something really, really cool and beautiful. And I think that this is just a general way that I like to go about, as much as I can, following my own work and how I balance my work when I'm working on more like mundane technical things, when I get lost in creativity. Where does the libido want to pull me? And so it's a little bit more of a flexible way to work, and I try to do that just in everything, and especially with the podcast.
Yeah, I think that we don't plan out the episodes meticulously. We kind of just like pick an idea and we're like, it could be this, or this. It can go in this direction or this one. Here's the room that we have to play based on what we're interested in. And then we kind of let it go. So,
Remember the first episode where we had like 4 pages of notes?
We took so many notes. And then afterwards we were like, we don't want to do that again.
Yeah, we're like, this is a good
It's not supposed
first
to feel
one.
like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
You and I are both so like weirdly perfectionist in different ways. We were like, have to be smart, have to show up, have to do it well. It's like, actually, no, it's not
we're
possible.
Just going to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, good. That was a good question. The next one is a silly one again. Which time period would you prefer to live in?
I mean, my brain is always like ancient Greece.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always thinking about the ancient world, but I also really like Paris in the 20s.
Oh.
So.
That's a split for you.
Yeah, I know. That's my two sides.
Both would probably be actually horrible for you.
Why? Because they don't have any antibiotic in the 20s?
Well, yeah, there's that. There's also, like, womanhood.
Yeah.
That feels like it would probably be bad.
Maybe I could just be a Vestal Virgin and hopefully not be stoned to death.
Love being a Vestal Virgin. It would be great.
Yeah, unless I break the rules and they bury me alive.
Which you would.
Yeah. Oh, God.
But you would do it secretly.
Yeah.
And you would do it, like, grumpily and just complain, but then you would do it a little bit, and then you would, like, scare yourself.
I love to scare myself.
I can see you in both places very much. I feel like the 1920s France for you would be a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that.
Cafes, pastis, writers, painters. Mm-hmm. But then, wars happen, so I don't know. Yeah. It's hard to be alive now, so I don't know what I would do.
Honestly, would I choose now if I ever had any kind of choice? Probably not. Mm-hmm. I would choose maybe but then again, I feel like we're at the forefront of a very important movement in the world, and I am excited by that, and I think about this a lot. This is my Aquarian bit of my Aquarian brain that gets lost in this thought of like religion has effectively dissipated as like a structure that we all fall into. Obviously, it's still very much alive in the world, and I'm never anti-religion, so don't worry, people. But it is not something that we all gravitate towards. In fact, it's to the point where today, if someone says, hi, I am in a religion and I follow it closely, especially people of our age and younger. It's kind of like, oh, really interesting. That's a surprise. And we're at this forefront of like seeking spirituality in a new way that brings in so much more depth and I think tries to rescue what religion was really trying to do, and that really, really excites me. So being alive at this time for that reason alone is exciting. And then also like feminism is great to watch being a thing. But like I would go back to medieval times, and I would go to probably, I don't know, probably, you know what? Yes, I do know. I would go to like 1290.
Wow, she's so specific, everyone.
In like Occitan, France.
Wow, okay.
That's where I would go. Probably after the Albigensian Crusade, though, because
Of
that
course.
would be, I
you
don't
don't
want to be
part of that.
So maybe a little later. But that's where I would go. That's a cool time period where people doing cool things and having great ideas. So, but then again, I would be a woman. So what power would I? I would just have to be a Cathar and just be like a quiet heretic lady, and that would be my life, and I'd probably really love it. So that's where I would go. But I don't know. I'm also just like very into the 60s sometimes too.
Yeah, that's true. We both like that.
Yeah. So, but I still would go. I would go to like maybe 1300. Okay, cool. On to the next question. How do you counter the Christian beliefs of tarot being evil? We kind of talked about this a little bit already. I just was on a podcast with somebody, or I was like the guest on a podcast, and they were like, you know, someone gifted me a deck, and the first time I saw it, I was like, this is bad, because I think that they had come from a more formal religion. And it's just so wild to me that tarot is seen as evil, because it literally comes out of like the Christian brain in like the 15th century. So it's like the images that we see on the deck are representative of Christian thought of the time period. So the reason it's associated with evil is only because in the 19th century it became used for divination, and divination is associated with evil.
Yes.
So the tarot has no roots in anything bad. Maybe if you read some like Gibelin or some of these like early tarot scholars who just made up a whole bunch of nonsense about what they thought the tarot came from Baphomet and whatever. All of that is totally made up, and just couple guys who were like, let's make stuff up and like tell people.
So annoying.
It's just wild to me. But divination has been seen as evil, and that is because in the Bible it says,
don't do it.
Don't do it. It's bad. That's a question, though. I'm like really, really curious about like why that is. Why, on this podcast, she was asking me like, where do you think these messages come from? Is it God? And I was like, yeah, sure. And also your own self and your own deeper wisdom. Are those different things? I don't know. But I think it's very interesting that divination is seen as so corrupt and evil still in our world. And you have the same thing as an astrologer. It's been so long. It's interesting because astrology in like a lot of Europe for a long time was widely accepted, though. It wasn't seen as divination, even though it's still said in the Bible that it's bad. Like they
not
still
even
used
like accepted, but like integrated into like the liberal arts system of study in like the Renaissance.
Yep.
It was recovered from ancient times. So
I bet it's more of a puritanical response. It's probably like I bet someone needs to write a book on this or has written a book on it. Like when we started seeing things, divination in particular, as bad, I bet you it's got to be like Victorian era, something going on.
Maybe, but weren't they really into ghosts back then?
Exactly. They were also doing seances and trying to contact ghosts all the time, and that was not shunned either.
I think it just feels like an outgrowth of Enlightenment thinking, which just got stronger and stronger over time. And, it's a weird fine line between divination being like useless because it's not scientifically provable, and then becoming like evil, like it becomes immoral because it has no purpose in the framework of our culture. there's something there. So yeah,
Yeah,
interesting
I think
topic.
that it's a indicative of patriarchy that anything it can't have a full grasp on, it can't really understand, it deems as evil. So
yeah.
I think that it's, just so people know, the fact that divination is seen as an evil thing is new. It's new to us. It's not something that would have been weird for somebody in like 1702 to be writing about astrology.
Yeah.
And like dissecting bodies and being like, the organ was over here. That means that everyone's going to get money tomorrow.
Yeah.
That was normal. They did that kind of thing all the time. And no one really complained that much about it, unless you were maybe very orthodox. Then, yeah, you'd probably have your priest come and be like, you're not supposed to do that.
In order to be a doctor in the Renaissance, you needed to know astrology.
Yeah.
And medical astrology is a field that exists because of that time period.
Exactly.
But yeah, the closer we got to, Enlightenment era, the more and more it became just, deemed silly. But that's also because of Copernicus.
Yes.
And like, we literally discovered that, the way that we think astrology works doesn't really work.
Yeah.
The Earth is at, the center, the sun is at the center, not the Earth.
Yeah.
But,
I wonder too how much, because especially in like the 19th century, the 1800s, a lot of divination was practiced by non-white people or like people on the fringes, marginalized people.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something about that too.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's something to study. Yeah. But anyway, the idea of it being evil, anytime someone says that to me, I laugh.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any other response to it other than that is so silly, and
it's a prejudice, though. You're wrong.
You're wrong.
Everyone, you're wrong. But I think that it's a good message that we can give, too, that it's not your responsibility to change anybody's mind about divination being evil, unless, again, you're in like a family situation where people are being cruel to you, or if your partner is really against you, having tarot cards in your house or something. That's tragic, and that's very difficult.
Yeah.
But if you're just at a party,
let it ride.
Just don't even bother,
Just
because people, you're not here to, you don't have to defend divination. It's not going to change anything.
I honestly think in 100, 200 years, it's going to be so ubiquitous that this is going to be funny to even listen to people have this conversation.
So interesting.
If you're enjoying this podcast, we encourage you to leave a review or learn more about how you can support us on Mighty Networks, where you can get access to some exciting exclusive offerings. Or you can connect with us by sharing a symbolic experience, whether from a dream or synchronicity, for us to explore on the show. Thank you to today's sharer, and please tell us your symbolic experience or connect with us on our website, sorormysticapodcast.com.
Are you a small business looking to reach a targeted audience of people interested in all things esoteric? If this sounds like you, Soror Mystica would love to invite you to become an ad partner. We offer a highly tailored audience of mindful, curious, depth-seeking listeners, and we would be delighted to showcase your business and offerings to new hearts and new minds. Simply fill out an advertiser application form at our website, linked in the show notes below, or navigate to sorormysticapodcast.com/advertise with us.
Hello, my lovers of tarot, astrology, and the symbolic. Would you like to go on even deeper dives into topics that are even more niche and specialized and fascinating? Perhaps you'd like to explore angels in the tarot, or beasts in your dreams, or the thresholds of astrology. This is just a sampling of the bonus episodes we have over at our cloister. So go in the show notes and click the link and join us in even deeper conversations. We really hope to see you there. Sophia Kaur is a modern-day Renaissance femme who focuses on supporting individuals in reconnecting with their intuition and building a life that aligns with decolonial practice and process. Her books are currently open for consultation and coaching for those who are getting ready to travel through the underworld or who are on their way back to the surface and ready to align their lives with their values. Book yourself in for a free discovery call, and make sure to follow them on Instagram. Their handle is in the show notes below.
Okay, cool. Next question. What are your favorite or most challenging birth chart placements?
Okay, so most challenging is easier to think through. And I say all of this with many, many grains of salt because everyone's chart is different. But there are certain things that when I open a chart and I see it, I will be like, ooh, I have a question about this person. And it doesn't mean ever the same thing for everyone that a negative or a difficult placement shows up in their chart. Everyone's manifestations are also different.
Yeah.
As I sniffle my way through this question.
You're doing great.
Okay, so anytime the sun or the moon or Venus, maybe Mars, is
Just throw all of them in
all
there.
the planets, at any time really the sun or the moon is squared, opposed, or conjoined by Pluto or Saturn, I have questions. Second tier question would be that stuff happening with Neptune or Uranus, but Saturn and Pluto seem to really pack the deepest level of crunchy,
Yeah, you have a war with Saturn going on.
crunchy punch. I mean, I
You
try
used to, at least.
I try to accept him. He's my chart ruler,
You've
and
done well with him.
he's right on my ascendant. So yeah, if you have the outer planets Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto on your ascendant or on your descendant, these energies are difficult because they are transpersonal. And what we have in the chart are like a couple of tiers of planetary expression. The planets, the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, deal with more personal topics. And then the outer planets are, like I said, transpersonal. They're huge.
Right.
And so if you can imagine it, having a planet like Pluto, which is the planet of like the collective unconscious, the collective shadow, obsession, power dynamics, plutocracy, the seedy underbelly of things, in relationship with your moon, which is just about how you feel safe and secure,
Right.
you're filtering or you're receiving energies from the collective to your moon about that sort of experience. So it winds up tuning you into power dynamics that can be really challenging. It really kind of strengthens you through a dark night of the soul kind of experience. Right. So that is all to say, no one is doomed if they have these placements.
No one's
but
doomed.
yeah, everyone has something gnarly in their chart.
Yeah.
I have many things that are highly eyebrow raising, which is why I'm so special. But the main takeaway here is, aspects from Saturn and Pluto to the luminaries. I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's something.
There was a period of time where I feel like every other week you'd be voice noting me and talking about how you were unfriendly with Saturn, and it was very cute to me.
During my Saturn return, he was hurting my feelings a lot.
Yeah, he was rough with you.
Because I'm kind of I'm a Virgo, as you know. But I have a Gemini moon, and I have a lot of mercurial energy around me. And so I don't super love to plan, and I don't super love to be very rule-oriented. And when you're going through your Saturn return, and Saturn is on your ascendant, like he is in my chart, you need to have a plan. And that's when I was trying to finish grad school and trying to become an astrologer and trying to find part-time work that didn't make me crazy. And I just kept trying to shortcut everything. But actually,
I wonder what Tanya's chart looks like.
Did you know her sun sign?
No.
This is my grad advisor, everyone. She made me so sad.
She was
so
not
mad.
patient with you. She was not patient.
It's my fault because I also am ambitious, and so I chose the most smart, challenging, meticulous professor to advise me on my thesis ever.
I asked her to be my advisor, and she was like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah, she probably turned you down because she had a bad experience with me, though.
She was like, "I'll do it," but like, because at the time you and I were working at the same time.
Yes.
So she was just like, I'm gonna not be nice to you." And
Why
she
did I choose Marie?
Marie.
Marie was the woman who taught our classics class, and she was adorable, and she was this like Greek woman, and she was so checked out. She did not give a rip about what anybody was doing.
She just liked to talk about phalluses a lot.
That's true. Yeah, she really loved.
and then would just giggle and like yell, and it was great.
And be like, "I'm going to Greece in 2 months. I don't really care about grading. Give me your papers whenever." Like, why didn't I go for that? But I just ran towards like.
You wanted to impress.
Yes, I did. And I didn't. I did not impress her.
Well, maybe you didn't impress her, but you wrote a damn good paper. So
thank you. It is a good paper.
Yeah. But she told me up front, "You're not going to impress me, so good luck."
She tricked me. She was so supportive of me in class. And then when I had to...
She faked you out.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Anyway, it's also my fault. So, okay. Good placements, though,
Yeah.
in the chart can be anything. And I don't say that to be, open-ended and evasive. Like, I love to see, a Sun-Venus contact. I love to see Venus-Neptune contacts. I love to see Neptune-Moon contacts, even though that can make somebody overindulge or leave reality. But, I get really excited when I see signatures of creativity, spontaneity, and openness. And that comes, in my opinion, from Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, the moon, sometimes Neptune, in like soft aspects. Actually, that's not necessarily true. It can be a hard aspect. But I'm not really answering this question. I think that my answer is there is a way of reading a chart where aspects can be seen as good or bad, or we can just try to read the person in total and say, these are the different facets of the self. So for those of you who are starting to learn about chart reading, do not feel like you have to make a column of like good versus bad in my chart. So even good things that look good in the chart can be tricky, can be places where you lapse into expecting things to work out when you actually need to do the Saturn thing. So that's my roundabout answer about chart placements.
I don't have nearly as much clarity as you do about like what works for me in my chart versus what doesn't. But I think that I very much enjoy my Scorpio side, and I revel in it, and I love the darkness, and I love being a horrible person sometimes.
You are never a horrible person.
It's in my secret mind. When I think my evil thoughts. No, but like I enjoy being on the edge of the dark part of the world sometimes, and so like I very much love that. And I have a decent amount in Scorpio. I have my Sun in Scorpio. My Mars is in Scorpio, I think.
Mercury.
My Mercury's in Scorpio.
And your midheaven.
My midheaven's in Scorpio. My astrologer's here with me. So that's great. And I obviously really enjoy that midheaven placement, right, with my Sun. That feels always like, it's like a thing I've always kind of felt, this like something to reach for all the time. That feels very much me. So that's really, really cool. And it's very comforting when I remember that and I connect to it thoughtfully. I struggle with my Cancer moon sometimes because it's just moony. Yeah. It's like intense and it's sad. It's sad girl energies.
One of the things that I love about your chart, though, is that you have a Jupiter moon co-presence in Cancer, and that to me is your interest in like the philosophical and the esoteric.
Yeah,
Jupiter is always kind of deemed as the planet that gives you gifts and gives you luck, and that's all true about Jupiter, but Jupiter is also about esotericism and religion, and like you are obsessed with these topics. With religion. Yeah. And so Jupiter is there in Cancer. That's Jupiter's signs of exaltation. He's like very happy in Cancer. Thinking about the sacred feminine is like a Jupiter and Cancer thing. Yeah. And then the moon being there, it's like how you self-regulate and how you feel nourished. So that's a very beautiful part of your chart.
I don't hate it. It's a struggle sometimes. And I totally, the more that you've talked to me about Jupiter recently and just, for a while, thinking about how it is, so how it works with my moon has felt very right and very cool. And I've really enjoyed that. I don't really have any placements in my chart that I'm like, damn that thing. Yeah. Like I feel, I have a decent amount of Capricorn, like as we all do, born in the era that we're born in.
But yours is extra because you do have Venus in Capricorn.
I do have Venus, which I also enjoy. I mean, like, I wish I could be a little bit more chill when something doesn't match in my outfit. Yes. But, like, I can't. Yes. I have this obsession with matching things to a degree of, like, the idea of wearing a brown belt and black boots is, like, I cannot go out like this. I cannot do that. And it really is a lot sometimes. That I very much blame that on the Capricorn being, like, very intentional, put together. Exactly. Yeah. And it's not flexible.
Your Venus is also conjunct Saturn.
Right.
So you and I both have Venus in like a kind of dark sign. Yeah. Yours is conjunct Saturn. Mine is conjunct Pluto. Yeah. Mine's in Scorpio. And so
you lean into the darkness.
And you do too.
Meh.
There is, well, you love pink,
I
but
love pink.
yeah, I lean into the darkness a little bit more, but we both just have like weird Venuses. We both
do.
have serious approaches to feminine like experiences and topics, I
Yes.
feel.
Yeah. Your whole aesthetic is definitely more like grungy, sexy 80s, like deep punk. And mine is like pretty princess. Give
so
me a
funny.
crown.
And we just walk around together like that, and that's fine. I love it though.
It's very cute. Yeah. Cool. Let's see if we have any more questions, but I think we hit so many. And oh, this one is asking about what we're offering in the future.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So we both have, well, actually, you just started teaching.
Yes, I just started teaching the Foundations of the Tarot workshop, which is at this point about halfway through. And then this is not well, it's not like an official opening or announcement, but if you have been thinking about taking, like, really doing the study of the cards in a deeper way, and you want to move through all of the cards, the Archetypal Tarot School is coming back in September. So you can go on we'll link this in the show notes to get on my mailing list, and I can also give you like a Archetypal Tarot booklet freebie for you to like get acquainted with what Archetypal Tarot is. And then you'll get the announcement when the doors are like officially open. So that's coming in September. So that's what's kind of next for me. But you have something really big coming up very soon.
Yeah, so, my version of Mariana's Archetypal Tarot School is...
It's your own...
I'm just saying.
thing.
It's like they're both our big classes.
Yes, there are
That's all I'm
signature
saying.
classes,
Yeah, exactly.
as you're saying. Yes.
There are signature classes. We sound so fancy.
Yes.
So, okay, it's the Art of Chart Interpretation.
Yes.
I renamed it. So everybody who took either the School of Divine Sympathies or the Divine Art of Astrology, I'm so sorry to be confusing, but...
No, it's not. I think that it's good because I felt like I came up with the name for my class like in a dream kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Where I just like opened my eyes and like, that's
This
what
is
it
what
must
it
be
is.
called.
Yeah.
And it felt right. And when you were putting yours together, you're kind of like, I want it to be this, or maybe I want it to be that. So it's okay to like find what it feels most right. And it's also shifting as you do it. Like every time you do it, yes, you're going to have the same core material, but you're like adapting it and changing the angle a little bit as per like what feels most important. So.
It just feels like really unstable of me, really chaotic. But anyway.
Well, you do have that Gemini moon, right?
I'm sorry. So anyway, the Art of Chart Interpretation, which is a kind of foundational course on my approach to astrology, which is myth and symbol informed.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a 9-week immersion into chart reading techniques, and I'm taking you through everything from the beginning of like the history of astrology to understanding why and how we bring mythic and archetypal perspectives into the chart, and then going through the building blocks of the chart, the planets, the houses, the signs, the aspects, bringing in definitions that will be familiar to people, but then also bringing in the stories of each of the planetary gods and different ways of reading the houses symbolically, etc. And then several weeks of good old-fashioned just like technique practice, working with asteroids, and I also conclude with a lesson on astrological magic.
Yeah, which is so cool.
I love that.
Amazing. That's great. So that's going to happen when?
July 11th.
July 11th.
Doors close. We start on July 11th. So
Yeah.
doors are open now.
Yeah.
You can find the link in the show notes here to check it out. If you enroll early, you get a free 90-minute seminar called Myths from Underground, which is my like 8th house underworld mythology themed lecture.
How cool is that? That's great.
Thanks. And that's it. That's what's up.
Summer school.
Summer school.
Time for summer school. And people can like watch the replays and stuff if they're on vacation.
Thank you for leading me into this. It's all taught live, so you can join and hang out with me and do the Q&As and chat with me, but if you cannot join from your time zone, it's all recorded, so people can just follow along.
I love kind of having like a program to do in the summertime, even if I can't come live because people are like away and doing stuff, because it feels like summer is just like, bleh, like we just kind of waste, and it's really cool to be doing something that's more spiritually fulfilling, but feels like engaging. So I usually do like a Jungian program in the summer that always feels really exciting. So highly recommend. You should check it out. And cool. We did a thing. This was different. We had a camera set up.
That's crazy.
Hi, everybody. And we did it live, and we apologize for air conditioners
And my coughing.
and coughing and all the little bits and bobs. But this was awesome, and it was cool to kind of just chat more informally. And we'll see you in the next one for whatever symbol we chaotically choose.
Exactly. No one knows.
No one knows. Okay.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us in our conversation today.
Please consider supporting the podcast by leaving a review and following Soror Mystica wherever you listen.
You can also become a more active supporter and a member of the Soror Mystica community by joining us on our Mighty Networks platform.
If you have a symbolic experience that you'd like to share with us for the podcast, you can tell us all about it at sorormysticapodcast.com.
The music for this podcast is written and performed by me, Mariana Lewis, with special thanks to Stefan Lewis. You can connect with both Christina and myself on Instagram and get to know our work by clicking on the links in the show notes.
As the alchemical motto goes, as above, so below, as within, so without.
May this ancient wisdom continue to guide you deeper.
Until next time, take good care.